Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Fundamental Forest. That's right, this is the series where we don't get too overwhelmed with all the hacks and all the bells and all the whistles of Roller Coaster Tycoon. We bring it back to the basics, the powerful fundamentals, the basic stuff which lets us put our best feet forward. I'll just start off by giving you guys a huge thank you, as always, for all of your comments, all of your likes, all of your subscribes. They go a huge, great distance to helping spread news, the good news of our community, to all the people who either need to get back into playing Roller Coaster Tycoon, or those lucky people who are discovering it for the first time, experiencing that magic for the first time. Can you guys alright, here's one for the comments. Tell me the story of the first time you ever saw Roller Coaster Tycoon. The story of the first time you played it, and I'll tell you mine. We got given Roller Coaster Tycoon by a family friend. It probably would have been around the time it came out, maybe like a year or two after. We're talking Roller Coaster Tycoon 1 here. And I was too much of a stupid baby to understand how it worked. So I loaded up Leafy Lake and I was trying to make footpaths using this. I was like, how do you make a footpath? And I couldn't figure out that there was a footpath button. And then I just gave up and I didn't play it. And then I went round to my friend's house, maybe this could have been ages afterwards, and I saw that he was on what I now recognize to be Evergreen Gardens, and he had put a powered launch steel roller coaster up on the top of that mountain, you know, the one with all the sort of Roman columns at the top, and he was just firing roller coaster trains off them and giggling with his mate. I was sort of, for some reason he was doing this with like a different friend, and I was watching from behind just being like, whoa, what's going on there? Just sort of being a passive observer, as you do sometimes when you're a kid. But even if I was being an NPC in that moment, I was having a subjective personal experience. I'm excited to hear your guys' stories as well, and I'm really interested to see how many of them do involve kids cackling whilst firing steel roller coasters into huge crowds of guests. But in today's episode, it happened again. I did half an hour of recording and the audio didn't record. So now I'm getting in the habit of always checking the recording software first before I open my big fat gob. And hopefully that change is going to save me a lot of heartache. Maybe I need to update something about my computer. It's never happened before, and now it's happened twice, so that's not good. We discuss one of the newest sections of the park, we do some therapeutic foliage, and then we continue to develop the kids area. I don't know why I decided this area was the thing I was going to focus on today. It's what my heart wanted, though. I think after the recording incident, I needed some, kid coaster speed stuff. Anything more intense than that and I was probably going to throw up. And then after that, it's more stuff to do with the Ride Creation Contest, Deurklink's Ride Creation Contest. Deurklink's Inverted Coaster Contest. I'm really excited about this one. The ideas that I'm having are really flowing out of me. It's coming along absolutely fantastic. I'm really enjoying doing it, to be honest. I feel like it is a really effective way of communicating these ideas that we really need to communicate in this series. So I hope you guys are excited as I am to continue developing that idea, and you don't think I'm betraying our beautiful Fundamental Forest main map that we have here. So with that being said, I will let you crack on. Okay, is the microphone working? It looks like it's working. Another 32 minutes of me working and explaining and talking about stuff hasn't recorded my microphone. All I need to do is just look at this to make sure the microphone's working when I start recording. What I normally do is I press the star key, which is just record. This is proving that I shouldn't trust it. I should always check. I've only myself to blame for this. Okay, what I went over in the last footage was I took a look at this area, started doing a little bit of macro thinking. Maybe we could have an entrance here. I'm not really sure about that. Maybe we could have an entrance here. I let the guests back in. That's quite fun. I drew little boundaries around here because this area, I don't know whether I've said it formally, so I'll say it now, is going to be, as somebody suggested, this is going to be a Mongolian section, so it's going to be an Asian theme, and it's not one that I've seen people do very much before, so I'm excited to see what you and I can do with it. Ah yes, Mongolia. It looks like a tower block, doesn't it? Yes, I'm excited to do a Mongolian theme because it's not something that I've personally experienced people explore before. Because one of the main things it needs is wide open area. And now that we've expanded the map somewhat, we can fit that sort of theming in. I have done this outline a little bit like that to give us plenty of room to play with this. And what I want to explore a bit more is this rocky sort of stuff. And you can picture with this sort of stuff on a gently moving landscape will give that impression of a Mongolian steppe, but in a sort of British kind of way. So the British designers thought, oh, we can get away with a Mongolian thing here, which I think we certainly can. And here we can see the sort of rides that we were thinking of. So here is a circus, which could be like a Mongol tent. And then we've got a steeplechase for a sort of like horse lord idea. The GCI thing we were thinking of as well. We've got the arrow log flume, which I think we could fit in quite convincingly. And then we've got a sort of horse race idea with these brand spanking new go-karts. If you had told me even a year ago that that would be our go-kart experience, I wouldn't have believed you. I would have said, you need to stop smoking whatever it is you're smoking. Or at the very least, share it. Why are you hogging the damn stuff? Something that's a bit tricky about Mongolian nomadic sort of theming is that there might not be a very concrete kind of architecture that we can really latch onto. Maybe it would be a sort of quite architecturally sparse themed area, so it'd be a bit more like footpaths connecting different areas, maybe some like tent ideas for our like smaller shops and stalls sort of thing. Or maybe we'd have it quite localized and then have these big, wide, expansive areas as like a playground for all of our rides to interact with. I think it's going to be an interesting one to explore. It might be something that we revise and develop as we go along, but that's always the case with everything. And then we were mucking around with this Schwarzkopf shuttle loop, and I'm satisfied with this design. It feels very sort of correct in the scale. But the real challenge is, where are we going to put it? Because I want it to be in this classic sort of area. But the shuttle loop, this particular design is 38 tiles long, so it's fairly challenging to fit in. It isn't as compliant as, for example, a car ride, which will sort of, you can fit in wherever you want, to be honest, can't you? What we also did was, with this additional space over here, we don't need to go underneath here in order to get a train around here. So I thought we can go around the houses, and we spent a bit of time sort of shaping this area a little bit to give a contour that we're eventually going to go through and smooth out, make beautiful, make attractive. And this back corner is begging for something, isn't it? But what are we going to put here? What could we put here? Because this is sort of an extension of the kids area, isn't it? I know that we were playing around with a junior Woody in this back section, but does that remain as good an idea as it seemed at the time? Who knows? But we brought this around here, we extended this to the map edge, we brought this under here, and we started mucking around with making this little vignette here still beautiful and shaping this area to just sell this whole thing. This is a bit of a big straight line, so hopefully we can break it up a little bit. Maybe do something a bit like that to break up the line a little bit, and then we head back over here with a bit more room. But I think I need to lower my blood pressure a bit after that incident, so I think what we'll do is we'll take a good relaxing look at this foliage along here. It's important not to hold shift with some of these because it does make a support appear, but you can just plop it in like this. In my opinion, the trick to doing this kind of thing does sort of involve trying to like imagine a shape that you want to embody as you move through it, and doing your best to remain faithful to that shape as you're going through, whilst remembering that all-important end goal. It doesn't matter what your plans are if they don't look good. So if a better idea sort of jumps out at you during this process, you've got to go for that one instead. It's what Chris Sawyer would want. I was going to say would have wanted, but he is still alive to the best of my knowledge. So we're just going through along here, making sure that we're getting some nice characterful moments in here. I do really like how I did it along here. I'm not sure how I'm going to use this area. It's a bit of like a bit of dead space here as it stands right now, but that doesn't mean that we can't make good use of it. Maybe we could make a little garden area along here. Maybe we could extend this area, maybe have a little bit of a, who knows, a little picnic area back here. But it's also important to remember you don't have to make every single centimetre of the entire park work for you 100% of the time. It is perfectly fine to have those quieter, subtle moments. You could see then I almost did the comedy thing, which is to delete the work you've just done. The button that I use for selecting scenery is the V key. So if I press V, click on something, here it is. But the B key is the delete tool, so you've got to be careful. Alright, it's an emergency. We need to get the willow in here. I mean, right now you and I can see the fact that it's got the black wooden supports. Why did they have to be black? What a strange colour to use for the supports. Why not just a regular brown? That would be much easier to conceal in there. But, you know, we don't always get what we want, do we? Oh my goodness, Grand Carousel. You gotta get it together. We've got a reputation. We've got a reputation to maintain, was what I was trying to say there. I bet we can fit some of this low grass in underneath this. Look at that. Easy. Easy. Whoa. There's some secret stowaways heading into the park through our secret underground passageways. Glad to see they are working as designed. Looks like we're pretty close to wrapping up this little ledge over here. Look at that, and as quick as anything, we've populated this area with foliage. Just really simple techniques, but that method of mixing your objects and getting a few variation objects in there goes a long way to sort of making a area feel a bit more considered, a bit more natural, a bit more like all of these organisms are sharing with one another to fight for their little spot in the whole thing. Just playing around with some other junior coaster designs. This goes right up against the map edge, so it's not good, but I decided to see it through. On some of the real world examples, they had a transfer track which just came off just before the lift hill, so I was playing around with that. But in order to make space for it in the sort of environment we've created, it's not bad, don't get me wrong, but it's not how we want it to be. It's not as good as this one, the track design that I saved from the last version that we did. Look at that. It's elegant, it's simple, it's effective, it's everything it should be. I think we should try and connive our way to dropping this one back in, and I think that's going to be fairly trivial. I kind of wanted it to be like the station's big and like that, and you go up to it like that, but hey, you don't always get what you want. Sometimes you do 30 minutes of recording and building and you can't use it. So I think what I'd like to do is just flatten this area a little bit, and then we can re-add in we can just add the landscaping back in once we're ready to do that. This is another Junior Woody. Ooh, which one do we prefer? They're both nice, aren't they? Is that one a bit more like in the spirit of what we're trying to do? Let's just test this one, see how we feel. This one's got block sections. Did Junior? Well, of course. Yeah, I guess every kind of coaster has block sections if it needs them, doesn't it? And what we can do with this is we can just have a building here if we really want a building. And then we can go la 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 up to this building. But I do think that we want to sink this area a little more. Oh, well. Guess we can do it there as well. But do we want it to be pressing up against this train even more? Do we want that little gap there? I think we do. It's nice and slow, which is what we want from the Junior coaster. It just goes once, comes up here, goes down again, wraps around and into the station. What I just want to try out, I like how it comes in tight there, but I think having the S-bend before the station just feels kind of funny. Nah, it's better before, isn't it? And also, what colours would we like it to be? Because we do have the full pick of the litter. We could have it just be this golden colour, like, ooh. That is not illegal. And it might be eye-catching for people, like seeing it from over here as well. But we've already got a gold one over there, don't we? So maybe... I don't think we want green. We've got a few different kinds of blue we can use. Ugh, that one's a bit sort of like, feels like it drains my eyes. I feel like it's sapping my strength. Maybe red. That one as well. Goodness gracious me. I don't think we want it to be maroon. I think that's a bit scary. But we could have it red. I'm always a fan of this purple. That could be really fun. And we could, if we really wanted, we could push this way further back into this corner and just explore a bit of this area a bit more. We could have a lot more going on in this area, couldn't we? I guess there's nothing wrong with that. We could add a few more loops of path in there, couldn't we? Let's think about it for a second. What other stuff could we have in a more kid area that we wouldn't be using up from elsewhere in the park? We could have something like a petting zoo. Maybe we could have a little mini golf section as well. That could be really fun. That's something that you don't get to use very often, isn't it? So maybe mini golf would be ideal for this kids area. And it does give it an excuse to have this area in the back, doesn't it? It's the sort of thing that you would put out of the way, and it could be a good upcharge attraction. I think people would happily pay for the mini golf. So I can picture this being a more wooded area with like a mini golf like weaving its way through, and it could potentially have its own. Oh, and here's a great idea. We could have another train track just going through the woods in the back here. That could be absolutely banging. Right, I think we've had some great ideas for this back section here, so maybe we should drop them in to remind ourselves. We should have a choo-choo train in this back section, and we should try out the mini golf. Where have you gone? There it is. We could put a garden golf in this back section, if we know what's good for us. Oh, good and sweet heavens. I've just been hacking away at this layout for a while now. I'll take you back. I only made a few different saves, but if we go to here, this is obviously the one that we made. And then I think this one is like a middle one where I was trying out having the MCBR be here. And I believe like up to like this moment here was about, maybe here it was about similar to how we had it at the end of last episode. And then I really wanted to have a bat wing here, but then from this angle, which would probably be the angle that we were going to view it from both of these angles, it was just muddling up this view of the loop. And I guess we could put some separation here, but we wouldn't want separation here, would we? We'd want to be able to be a guest here who could look straight onto this. And I also took some screenshots, so this was something I was trying out as well. I was otherwise preoccupied, so I couldn't record, so I took some screenshots of some, just so I could go back and try and replicate them more than anything. And this one was a cool idea, maybe with, and I think maybe in the next screenshot, yeah, you can see the queue line in there. I was trying to make something like this work. But I think the main issue was attempting to stack up that MCBR with the lift hill there. I just feel like they were too close together, despite how satisfying that turn around the initial drop is out of the Cobra roll. So I came up with something like this instead, and then I dropped it here. I was like, oh my god, I need to move on. There's something to be said for this, but it's quite drawn out as it heads off into the inline twist. So let's just see how its speed looks through it, because I don't think there's any way we can drop it down to be lower if it's coming out of these huge elements into that one. I'm glad it can hook around there, but hey, that's pretty cool into there. But I can't make it any lower, maybe? Ooh, I don't know. Okay, I think we make a save here because I'm kind of curious to muddle some things around to maybe mirror this entire segment here and see what that does for us. This is a very, very, very... I'm taking this very seriously, guys. And I gotta give a shout out to 30 for this work of art. It was 30's. 30 made me do it, guys. Blame him. I'm really torn on whether I should include a mid-course brake run here. Mid-course brake runs are very important on long rides because they do allow you to run more trains on it, but they do sort of kill the momentum, and it is like a funny element to add to the flow of the ride. So I I struggle sometimes, you know. I'm not sure where I'm going to put this. You'd think that here would feel pretty natural, but when I plop one in, and maybe we could have a diagonal one, you know? So it could, like, hypothetically starts on this part here, and then we just have, there's no, oh, there is, look, 1, 2. And just have it like this, but then we're sort of jumping in behind the cobra roll a bit, and I don't necessarily want that. Oh, my life is so hard. I might have the hardest life of anybody, come to think of it. Every time we try and do the batwing, we've not got enough room. It's just behind the loop. You know what? I'm really not sold on this MCBR. I do sort of like if the game was different and we didn't have this perspective that was stacking these elements on top of each other. I think I'd quite like having that batwing there, because it sort of sits in this trough here as well. So like if we bring this path across here, we could lead towards it, maybe even start the queue there. Like a batwing has that unique facet that it does have this like symmetry that you can quite safely fit things through, but just having this, it just kills the flow dead, doesn't it? And I think I really did prefer having this come around a bit more like this. So here we have it. It's a layout that I'm feeling happy with. I feel like it's in a competitive place. By that I mean I think we're going to be able to extract a lot of drama out of it. We're going to be able to get it to a place where maybe people won't even realize that it's no hack. So it drops down into that little pre-drop segment, I'm sorry, into the Immelmann that we loved from Alpengeist, into this big old loop. It's kind of going lazily through these elements, but I think with peeps on, the pacing will be a bit better, but I really don't mind the hang time. But we can make these things smaller as well, so we can make those elements quicker. And we're going up into the mid-course brake run. We do like a little groovy little helix there, and then it's into the batwing. I tried to evoke a little bit of Montu with that, and we're going to be placing it in such a way as to get the most value out of it. Then it's just a single corkscrew, then a funky little helix into the brake run, and by then its speed is sort of petering out enough so that we're happy that we're getting back to the brake run. There you have it. Here's the layout. I'm really happy with it. There's some things that I wish were different and all that stuff, but I've spent a lot of time on this, and I think with the parameters that we've got, with the things that we have at our disposal, I think it's worthwhile for us to move on. The reason why I'm really willing to move on with this is because I'm happy with the layout. I think it's a really cool layout. If someone else made this and I saw it, I'd be like, send it. I'm looking forward to seeing how you theme it, and I'm looking forward to doing that for us as well. So the way I'm seeing it, the way that I'm interpreting this layout, is that the focal points that we've got are this area over the Cobra Roll, which is usually a place that's really, really... I know that I discussed this at length in the video about judging the New Element Design Contest submissions. Yes, where they all use the same layout, and that layout had a Cobra Roll, and boy oh boy, did a lot of the submissions try and make the most out of that Cobra Roll. They put path over here. In Macaw, the queue went over this part. It's a cliche, but it's a cliche because it's so powerful. It's a cliche in the way that wearing shoes is a cliche. Oh, how original, you're wearing shoes today. Yeah, to protect my feet. It's a great idea. So don't let anyone fool you into thinking just because something's a cliche means you shouldn't do it. Things are cliche because they're powerful, because they work really well. The most successful things are original, but they use the strength of well-trodden ground as well, and they pick their moments for originality, and that's what we're going to be doing as well. You've got to use the Cobra Roll, guys. My only regret, really, is that we can't get a path around the loop in the same way that we could on earlier designs. I would have really liked that Montu-esque path around the loop, but I don't really regret making the other choices that I made, which have led us to this, so I'll get over it. So I am almost certainly going to be wanting some sort of plaza, and if we can make it happen, maybe, just maybe, we could get a queue going in that direction as well. It doesn't want to do it there, but we can fit it through the middle like that. So let's have a play around with the map size to give ourselves a little bit more space on this side. I know that we're going to be trying to not use as much space on that back side, and I think we'll put the entrance over on this side as well. We can definitely, we've got a lot of wiggle room in this direction, but it's in this like angle that we've not got much. So let's say something like this. We can squeeze it more in along this edge, so bring this edge in a little bit if we really need to, and then extend it in that direction or this direction if we need to, because remember, we don't have to do it 60 by 60. We can do it 72 by 50 or whatever it is they said on the rules. But for simplicity's sake, we'll see what we can get away with having it square. Maybe this is the perfect sort of size. So now we've got a layout, but what's the next thing we've got to worry about? Well, there's loads of things we've got to worry about in reality, let's face it. But one of the big things that I would look at next is the theme. How are you going to differentiate this project from every other project that's going to be submitted? A good way to do that is by utilizing theming. And the theme that I think I will do for this, they say write what you know, and perhaps it's same for build what you know. And what I've been doing recently is playing Roller Coaster Tycoon, yes, but I've also been playing Hades 2. Have you guys heard of Hades 2? Amazing game. It just had its 1.0 release, so it went from early access into the fully released game, and I've been absolutely smashing it. I've defeated all of the bosses, and I'm really excited about that. Anyway, I'd like to bring this passion that I clearly have for this game, considering I won't shut up about it, into this project, but I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do it, because it is a top-down, like Roller Coaster Tycoon, roguelike, sort of slash 'em up sort of game. There's not a huge amount of architecture in there, but there are some really cool bits of art style. This might say it's Olympus. It's not Olympus. This is Ephera, Duff. This is one of the rooms genuinely on Olympus. This is the place where you start out. So as you can see, the art style is really, really gorgeous. The game, perhaps unsurprisingly, takes place in ancient Greece. So we can use a lot of our classical sort of objects, lots of our pillars, lots of our stuff like that. So I think that it will be less bringing like a one-to-one version of the game into Roller Coaster Tycoon. It'll be more about evoking that vibe, evoking the magic, evoking the art style of the game, and that'll give us a really fun jumping off point to really like be expressive. So I guess the statement is all about inspiration. What is inspiring us at the moment? And I think there's lots of cool stuff we can do with this. Obviously, we've got the classic theming. So these pillars, could you get any more ancient Greece than that? I don't think you could. I know it's ancient Roman, but the Romans were just copying off the Greeks. They were trying to evoke Greek stuff in everything they were doing. I'm thinking of making it really, really organic as well. So any sort of like geographic features that we make can sort of be like this with some, you know, the vines and stuff to simulate that extremely organic. We've done this a little bit in our Fundamental Forest Park, haven't we? So we're just bringing that to life. We want it to feel very sort of overgrown, very organic sort of situation, whatever we do with the Roman pillars to give us our Greek thing. I think the next thing that we've got to decide right now is, are we going to have any supporting rides? Something that's another cliche. Let's get into cliches again. A cliche of the design category, and the Ride Creation Contest is sort of a cousin to the design category over at NE. One of the cliches of the design category is that when you have like a roller coaster based design, it often comes with a water-based supporting ride. And we saw that in both Steppenwolf and El Encierro. El Encierro has one of the coolest, just to this day, one of the coolest River Rapids ride. It has a sort of like unparalleled in its day vertical lift for the rapids to ascend on, and it was amazing at the time. It's amazing now. I know it's kind of trivial now. I did one in Constellations with help from Dino, and in my little way that was my homage to one of my favorite designs. But what do we want to do? Do we want to do a log flume? Do we want to do a rapids ride? I think it would be fun to do a rapids ride, wouldn't it? The reason why also it would be very good to do a water-based ride is that, especially in Hades 1, not so much in Hades 2, but in Hades 1, you follow the river. There's a fishing mechanic in the game, so there's a lot of like references to like the bodies of water, to like the rivers and stuff. So we could definitely do a sort of river Styx themed water ride, this river of the dead that goes through the underworld. There are 5 rivers encircling Hades: the Styx, Phlegathon, Lethe, Acheron, and Cocytus. Styx is definitely the most famous of all of those, and I think I'd really love to do a rapids ride underneath all of this stuff. But how are we going to do it? Where are we going to go? The problem is, when you're doing no hacks, I think that rapids are the hardest ride to do, because you've got that big, ugly rapids track. I think we're definitely going to do one or more in Fundamental Forest, but I think for this, I think we should do ourselves a favor and maybe do a log flume. So looking down here, for example, we could have like a river coming through under here. We could bring the log flume or whatever it is under here to heighten the drama of these elements going on here. Oh, it's a big old challenge, isn't it? It's a big old challenge. And I'm thinking maybe doing something with this element here. The reason why that we have to add this ride now rather than at any other time is because we're going to start defining where the landscaping is. And just because we will be finished like adding in our landscaping doesn't mean that we can't add more stuff in afterwards. It just means that we'll have to redo some stuff. And if we can get away with not redoing anything instead of redoing stuff, I think that would really be in our favor. So is there anywhere in this layout as we have it right now we can envision having our final drop? Nothing's like screaming out at me right now. What we could do, of course, is we could have the water ride like off to the side and not really interfere too much with what's going on here. But the thing is, we want to heighten the drama. We want them intermingling as much as we can manage. So maybe just under here, right? Let's envision. I've got no problem with doing that there. It's just that it would be very, very low at that point. And maybe we could do it at more of like a higher point. We're always going to be wanting to put something through this enticing gap that's here, aren't we? But what is it going to be? I don't really want to like slalom this path through here this way, but we could have, hypothetically, we could have like a secondary path heading off in this direction if we do it in a different color. So we'll do it in that color to signify a secondary path going through there. But where are they connecting to? That's what I want to know. So I'm thinking definitely at this point we really must begin talking about plazas, because we just love them so much. We've got paths, we've been talking about paths, we've been neglecting the plazas. So let's just drop a plaza in here as a little sketch. We could have a, don't want it to be that big, don't be ridiculous. We could have like a mountain here, and this could be our Olympus analogy. You're starting high, and you're going down, down, down into the underworld with the roller coaster. Oh ho ho ho! Thank you so much for watching, guys. I'm excited to hear all of your ideas for what we should be doing in these new areas, all of your feedback. I'm always really appreciative of the input you guys give. It's really, really valuable to me to not only see what you guys think of the series, but to let me know what is working well and what isn't working well. If all goes according to plan, next week I will have an extremely, extremely good special guest for those people who are curious about the history of Roller Coaster Tycoon. I bet some of you can guess who it is from that, but to those who are a little bit in the dark on that, don't worry, you're going to have a great time. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. With that being said, you guys have an amazing weekend, and we'll see you next week.